Hello again. I'm Braddock Supervisor John Cook. Welcome back to Braddock Neighborhood News, the program I am using to provide you with information on issues facing our community and ideas on how we can strengthen our neighborhoods. This month, I'm honored to welcome Dr. Angel Cabrera, the new president of George Mason University. He has a distinguished background full of accomplishments in both the academic and private arenas. I look forward to the continued partnership between George Mason and Braddock District with Dr. Cabrera at the helm. Dr. Cabrera, thanks for coming on the show. It's great to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. Great pleasure.
So you've been at Mason about a year now.
That's right.
What do you think? What you expected? What's different? What's your reaction to your first year?
Without hesitation, it has surpassed my expectations. Both the university and the place where we live, and now we're neighbors. It's been just a terrific journey. Great university, a young university, amazing that in a relatively short period of time it has become the largest university in Virginia. And a big part of that is to be where it is located. I mean, this is a very exciting part of the nation to be at right now.
Right, and talk a little bit about why'd you come to Mason? I'm sure you had the opportunity to do a number of things. You've had a great background, and we'll get into that in a minute. But you chose Mason. Tell us why.
For a number of reasons. First of all, higher education is a passion of mine. I've done a number of things, but I really see myself as an educator. I love education. And I see that universities are undergoing significant change right now for a number of reasons. And there are a few universities in the U.S. that I think can lead the way in creating a new form of higher education. And George Mason is one of them. And he's one of them because it has the right size, because it has the right culture of innovation, because it's in the right location. And I want to be part of it. I think George Mason is on its way to do great things, but again, to show the way to perhaps other universities. And I want to be, I don't want to miss that. I want to be part of it.
Well, we're glad you're here to do that. And you know, Mason and Fairfax County grew together because Fairfax County was an agricultural county, and then in about the 50s and 60s began to become a bedroom community of the federal government. But now, we like to think it's if not the leading county in the country. Great business environment, lots of things going on. We're on the cutting edge of so many things, and they have a university that grew with us. Mason was growing through that time period that the county was growing, and to then be sort of working together and to be leaders in the country in a field like higher education is very exciting for the county.
Yeah. In fact, if you think about it, every single great community in the nation has a great university at its core. It's absolutely essential, and it is not an accident. Given how the economy has evolved, where now regions and cities and nations compete through knowledge and innovation, it is essential that at the heart of a great community you have a great university. And I've been reading a lot about the recent history of the county and the university, and you can see that there has been this symbiotic relationship. You had a community that was growing and evolving, attracting talent, and a university that was helping that happen. The university was driving the process and then also benefiting from the process. That's really a sign of a great partnership.
Yeah, it's interesting. We'll talk about your inauguration a little later on, but Till Hazel, Milt Peterson, Sid Dewberry, John Toops, who had so much to do with bringing Mason up, have had so much to do with Inova, our hospital, and really were the driving forces behind the development of the county. And you're right, the connection between a business community, a center of education, a center of medicine, technological development, it really is all connected and they work together.
That's right. And in fact, soon after I was announced as the new president of George Mason, I got to read a book on the history of the recent history of the county, The Fight for Fairfax.
There you go, great book.
That tells the story of these very distinguished gentlemen. And then a few months later, I got a chance to have a private dinner with all of them in one room. And it was really a remarkable moment to really get to meet these individuals. And in every single conversation, and ever since, I've become good friends with them. And every single conversation, when they're, whether it's in public or in private, and they are asked about what has happened in Fairfax, they will mention George Mason University almost in their first sentence. They had it clear that for this place to succeed and become prosperous, George Mason University was a key piece of that puzzle.
And there's a lot of connections built in. I know that even before you, well, one of your first official introductions to the county, I remember meeting you at a Chamber of Commerce reception because the business community has been so connected to Mason. I know the county works with Mason a lot. Dr. Stephen Fuller does so much economic analysis, and so those connections are very strong.
They are, and they will continue to be. In fact, I've spent a big time of my first year putting together a new vision for the university and bringing ideas and input from inside and outside of the university. And one of the themes that emerged to the very top as one of our 7 priorities for the future is precisely to be an engine, an economic and cultural engine for our region. That's our mission. We're a public university. We're a public asset. We're at the service of our community. And we're going to serve the community by helping it have a vibrant cultural life that enriches all of our lives, but also by being an economic engine, maybe a source of new ideas, new innovations, new businesses, and so on.
And you know, one of the things that really jumped out at me and impressed me as you were outlining that vision earlier this year was to talk about teaching students to be engaged citizens. That it's not just enough to gain knowledge, it's what you do with what you've learned, and of course the fact that you learn so much when you're doing. And we don't always hear that from higher education, but that's loud and clear your message through your vision. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, you're absolutely right. In fact, part of the exercise we did this year was to articulate a little bit better what is the type of student we want to produce. The question I asked my colleagues is, when anybody who graduated from Mason introduces themselves and someone asks, where did you go to college? I went to Mason. What do we want that to mean? And one of the themes that was really consistent and very strong in every conversation was, we want that to mean that that person is a good, engaged citizen. And in fact, that idea links us back to our namesake, George Mason, and to the sort of the founding fathers of this nation, the very basic ideas of a healthy democracy. A democracy works around well-educated individuals who are committed to making society better. So that's how we see ourselves. And what does it take to be a good citizen? Well, obviously, you have, among other things, to be productive, to be able to do a job or to create a job, but also to just have the values of respect, values of service, values of engagement, and so on. So we hope that idea will drive how we design curriculum, how we create programs, and what happens inside and outside of the classroom.
You know, it's interesting you talk about that question of what does it mean to be a Mason graduate. And you know, we in the county sort of talk about that question of what does it mean to be from Fairfax County? Because we in the county government, and I think our community leaders are very proud of our county. And what we think it means first and foremost is people in Fairfax County are very community engaged. And we talk about our culture of volunteerism and how people who live in this county, they not only work very hard, but they give a lot of themselves. They give to their communities. And after working a full day, they come home and then they're working in their neighborhood homeowners association, or they're working for a nonprofit, or they're coaching a recreational sports league, or they're at the PTA. They're doing so many things, and we feel that that's a big strength of Fairfax County, is that our citizens are so engaged. And so when our university, if we can call you our university, is training students to be those citizens, it's a great match.
And in fact, we're the great beneficiaries of that culture of citizen engagement and volunteering. Since I arrived, I've been absolutely amazed. Whether it is through the College of Visual and Performing Arts, in every advisory board we have, it's just made out of citizens all of the events, all of the shows, people who help us do everything we try. The Osher Lifelong Learning Institute that brings citizens from the entire, I mean, every piece of the university, if you dig, you don't have to dig very deep, and you will find people from the community who are making things happen.
It's a great partnership, and I want to talk about your vision, but let's first talk about who you are, because some folks might still not have really a knowledge of you as the person. You were born in Spain.
That's
and
right.
sort of, how'd you get to the United States?
Well, like many people who come to the United States, I came here to study. I received a Fulbright scholarship to get my PhD, and I landed at Georgia Tech in Atlanta. And I always joke, but actually it's the reality. At Georgia Tech, I got my master's, my PhD, and my wife.
Which is the most important? Not a fair question.
The answer is obvious.
There you go.
My wife was born and raised in Alabama, and we married, and after that we moved to Spain. She actually wanted to experience Spain, to learn Spanish, to get to know also my background. So we lived in Spain for about 9 years. Our two kids were born there. They're dual citizens. They grew up speaking Spanish and English. It's really amazing to see how that works. And in 2004, we decided to return to the United States. I was named president of Thunderbird School of Global Management, sort of the pioneer school of international business in Arizona. And we were there for 8 years until Mason knocked on our door, and it just felt right. So we packed up and moved, the four of us, and here we are.
There you go, and we're glad you're here. Let's talk about that vision. You've got an acronym, and we love acronyms here because we're still close to the federal government. So, but your acronym, IDEA. Talk about that, IDEA.
Right. When we had all these meetings and collected insight and had lots of discussions with various people who know and love and care about the university, and I asked him, what is it that has made Mason so successful until now that will hopefully help us drive success into the future? And several themes came up all the time. And interestingly, you could really use those 4 words that make up the word idea. And so that's how it became kind of our motto, the Mason idea. The I stands for innovation. We're a young university. We're not bound by old traditions that we're afraid to challenge. We really are ready to find our own solutions. So we're really a very innovative place. The D stands for diversity, which basically is a reflection of the diversity of Northern Virginia, one of the most interesting, most diverse regions in the United States. All that is reflected on our campus, one of the most diverse campuses that you can be part of, and in fact one where even our minority students perform at the same level as the non-minority students, which is a rare accomplishment. The E stands for entrepreneurship. We want to make a difference. We want to have an impact. We're not an ivory tower that is isolated from our community. We're there to serve our community. We do that by educating students who can make a difference, or even by encouraging our faculty to have their discoveries and their inventions make a difference, turn into businesses, licenses, and so forth. And the A, which is critical for a public university like ours, is accessibility. We want to have our doors open to anybody who has talent, who has potential, and hopefully remove any obstacle for people with potential to study. So those are the 4 words: innovation, diversity, entrepreneurship, and accessibility. That's our motto.
And that motto fits so well with, the vision the county has of itself, and we do realize it's a tremendously diverse county. Our public school system has students who at home speak something like 150 languages. I mean, that's the whole world right here in the county. And so our university appropriately reflects that diversity, and then that spirit of innovation and entrepreneurship, of breaking down barriers, of going where no one's been before and starting new things, because certainly that's the technology sector of our business community and others as well. We are a business leader, we're a technology leader, a thought leader, and so that just goes hand in hand very well. And it's really kind of where we need to be in the future.
That's right, and you're absolutely right that those concepts connect. Diversity helps innovation. because innovation is about looking at problems from many different perspectives and sometimes connecting the dots in ways that others haven't. Places that are heterogeneous, that have people who have different backgrounds, if that works well, they tend to be much more creative and innovative than places that are more homogeneous. So diversity, if when it works, it's a wonderful asset to drive creativity. This region is a beautiful example of how diversity can work. So you have one of the most diverse regions in the United States. As you said, every language, every cultural background coming together, the true melting pot. And at the same time, we have one of the most prosperous counties in America in any way you measure it, whether it's through education attainment, income, and any indicator. So we are in a way an ongoing experiment that shows how diversity can turn to be a huge asset, and the university, of course, is a key part of that.
It's interesting. One of the one of the concepts of sort of leadership in the future that gets talked about is how sort of a 20th century view of leadership was sort of the leader got in the front of the room and said, "Follow me, I've got the answer," and off we go. And it's much more now about collaboration. We have the challenges we face and the opportunities we have are more complex, and a leader is one who gathers information, people, ideas, collaboration, such a key term, and that's what you're teaching.
Yep, and that's what we do. In fact, you and I have joked in the past about Twitter and how sometimes we communicate with Twitter, but that's just one example that is changing how leadership operates. I connect with students through social media. There are no barriers of communication. I hear from them when they're happy, when things work, when things don't work. It's really changing the way it operates. I connect with the faculty, with people inside and outside of the university. So traditional barriers that created those hierarchical leadership structures are really breaking down, and I think that's a good thing.
It's going to be interesting to see sort of how students 10, 20 years from now who are at Mason today, who are sort of learning in that environment, how they put that into practice. And because it's got to be the case that they're going to come out of their Mason experience sort of with this mode of operating that's all about, I need to reach out, I need to touch people, I need to hear back, I need to collaborate, I need to gather people and information and ideas together. Very different and very forward-looking.
Right. I've spent quite a bit of time investigating the new demands of leadership in the 21st century. And what has become very clear is that the ability to interact productively with people who are different from you is absolutely essential. Every industry, every business that you can be part of has become a global business. The cell phones we carry, the clothes we wear, the cars we drive have been manufactured in a dozen different countries, and every business is really about collaborating and dealing with people who are different from us. The kind of experiences that you can have at a university like Mason, where every day you're dealing with that such rich amount of diverse people with different talents, is the best possible training you can have.
And you talked earlier on in the beginning about sort of a new way or new thinking of higher education in that realm of sort of putting thoughts into action and making things happen, because there's a traditional view of education was, well, the gaining of knowledge. The more books you read, the better off you are, and there's something to be said for reading and gathering information, but you're really looking at how you use the information.
That's right. In fact, sometimes we use the term students as scholars, and what we mean by that is we're hoping that our students not only will be obviously wiser and will have more knowledge when they graduate, but many of the things that you studied, many of the things you and I studied in college, we don't remember anymore. And yet, what we got out of the college experience, the most valuable piece, is that it helped us how to think, how to learn, how to develop an appreciation for lifelong learning and growth. And so that's what we're trying to figure out, is how the way we arrange the education can help students develop those skills, become curious, inquisitive, lifelong learners, and that is as important, if not more, than the actual knowledge that they acquired during those 4 years.
Yeah, you know, the ability to think and analyze and process information and gather it, and then to communicate it.
That's
to
right.
be able to write clearly, to speak, to be able to convince people of a point of view, to dialogue, to be able to be convinced, to listen. We're bad listeners. And to teach students how to do that, because to collaborate you have to be able to both speak and listen. And those are skills that aren't necessarily always thought of as traditional skills, but they're very important today.
That's right. And they, in many ways, those skills are leading a change in even what happens in the classroom, where there's a concept now that is being used in universities. It's kind of not a terribly attractive concept, but it's interesting. It's called the flipped classroom, which is, if you think about it, the most interesting things that can happen in a physical classroom is not the lecture, even though that's what we think of when we see it. It is not the lecture, it is the interactions between students and faculty, is the teamwork, is the confronting of points of view, is the creative problem solving. So the flipping the classroom is a trend in which some of the, if you will, the acquiring of knowledge, the lecture, the reading happens outside of the classroom. And when we bring people to the classroom, we use that time, that precious time, to put that knowledge to work.
And the whole, I guess there's a lot of people thinking about the whole question of higher education. What does it mean, and what should, who should have access to it, and the expense of higher education. And we went through a time 50, 60 years ago where not too many people got a 4-year education. And then it sort of in our generation was everybody should get a 4-year degree. Go to college and just learn for learning's sake. And now, of course, with the economy not being good, the emphasis on, with some people is on, am I going to get a job? What do I need to do to get a job? But the citizenship aspect is different and important. So how do you see sort of the role of higher education changing, and how's that working?
Well, one of the things that I always emphasize, and in the last few years there have been some pundits and commentators that sort of put a question mark on college. Is college worthwhile? In fact, there is an entrepreneur and a very successful, wealthy man in California that has offered 20 scholarships for high school students with very high grades to not go to college and instead set up a business, do something like that. And those are interesting comments, but they're extremely dangerous. And in fact, sometimes the wealthy man who has this scholarship, by the way, of course, he himself has a degree from Stanford and a law degree from Stanford. Now, even though he's trying to convince others not to go to college. In the current economy, the probability of getting a good job, a job that not only pays reasonable wages, but that provides you with good benefits and retirement pension plans and things like that, it is dramatically higher for people with a college degree than for people without a college degree. That has always been the case, that there is always a difference between people with it and without it. The gap is growing. It's not shrinking, it's growing. Because our economy is driven more and more by knowledge, by productivity, by innovation. If you don't have a good education, you're out of luck. So it's extremely dangerous when I hear some of these pundits. It's like, I wonder if the pundits would give that advice to their own children.
Right.
And the answer is absolutely not. So going to college is essential. And of course, there are many ways to go to college. And I think that's what needs to be, that's what is changing. That I think there's been a perception that a college is a very sort of traditional thing, is a 4-year thing, and there's a campus and a dorm. What we see is there are many ways to get that education, and we need to have our minds open to those possibilities. But in whichever way you do it, if you want to advance, you need a college education.
And we're leading in that area, I think, in Fairfax too. I know Mason's got a great relationship with Northern Virginia Community College. We're in a state that has the process of you can graduate from Fairfax County Public Schools, you can go to Nova for 2 years, you can transfer over to Mason. There's a lot of collaboration in between, and that's about that accessibility, so that
That's right.
everyone can find a path that works for them.
That's right. In fact, I spent quite a bit of time with the president of the Northern Virginia Community Colleges, Bob Templin, and And he and I always like to see the community college and Mason as a sort of the system of higher education for Northern Virginia. Even though we're independent institutions with our own governance, but we're working towards the same mission. Northern Virginia Community College is a fabulous community college. It has led the way in many ways in the nation, in many of the innovative approaches, and they continue to be the main source of students at Mason. And we're constantly trying to think of creative ways to even make that transition smoother and help more people make that transition. So for sure, the future of the higher education in this region is going to be a question of how well Nova and Mason collaborate.
And it's interesting because the #1 destination for Fairfax County public school students is North Virginia Community College.
Right.
Big percentage of students going there, and then many going on to Mason and other
That's right.
students. And it's a fascinating collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a fascinating conversation. I wish we could continue it, but we're out of time. I want to thank Dr. Cabrera for joining me today and sharing his vision for the university and for being a good neighbor to the residents of Braddock District. It is indeed an honor to have one of the top centers for higher education in the country right in our backyard. I hope you've enjoyed this segment of Braddock Neighborhood News. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, comments, or other needs, please contact my office at 703-425-9300 or email braddock@fairfaxcounty.gov. Tune in next month for another edition, and please remember to look for ways to volunteer. Your community needs you.